Everybody, welcome to our next AI and Software as a Service webinar. I'm super excited to have a guest on board today who's, first of all, an incredible visionary in the work that she is leading, author and founder, CEO of a company we'll be discussing called Affectiva. So, Rana, a pleasure to have you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Let me do a proper introduction of you, if I may. Dr. Rana el Kaliouby is a pioneer in artificial emotional intelligence, emotional AI. And we'll talk about this because I think it's one of the most important unappreciated elements of artificial intelligence and how we relate to our machines. You're the co-founder and CEO of Affectiva. It's an incredible AI startup spun out of MIT Media Labs, my alma mater, which I love greatly. Rana grew up in Cairo, Egypt, received undergraduate and master's degree at the American University there. Then you went on to Cambridge, where you got your doctorate, and then to MIT's Media Lab. And you've got a great TED Talk, and then we'll be talking a little bit about your new book as well. But Rana, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to it. I'm a big fan, so excited to be here.
Thank you, thank you. So your ideas and your products are being used by Fortune 500 companies and entrepreneurs around the world. And let's just dive in and define what is emotional AI. It's a cool sounding word, but what is it?
Well, if you think about human intelligence, there's your IQ, your cognitive intelligence, but there's also your emotional intelligence, your EQ. And that drives, how likable you are, how persuasive you are, how effective you are in your personal and professional life. It's interesting, if you dissect how people communicate, only 10% of our communication is in the choice of words we use. 90% plus is nonverbal. It's your facial expressions, your hand gestures. I use a lot of these, your vocal intonations, and all of that is not captured when we communicate digitally. So we're on a mission to basically recapture these nonverbal signals, quantify them, and that provides a whole lot of unique and novel insights to all sorts of industries.
So, Rana, I get that. When did your journey, well, first of all, for the CEOs and entrepreneurs watching, what I want to do is get you thinking in the notion that you're about to hear a number of ideas, which are great ideas for companies you might start, or really how to make the content that you're delivering for marketing and sales a lot more effective, or for people in the HR world, how you understand your employees. There's so much richness here that I really, again, just bubbling with excitement on delivering this. So Rana, how did your journey begin on thinking about emotional AI?
I grew up in the Middle East and ended up, as you mentioned, doing my Ph.D. at Cambridge University. And it was my first experience away from home. And I remember getting to Cambridge and realizing I was spending so much time with my machine, like as we all are right now, but this computer didn't have any clue how I was feeling. And that affected the efficacy of the human machine interactions, basically. And so that I started asking the question, well, what if machines could understand human emotions? I think my key aha moment, though, was that technology is becoming the main conduit of our communications, right? Like a lot of our communications are mediated by technology. And if technology is not designed in a human-centric way to capture all of this richness, it's affecting the efficacy of our human connections. And so, my work, of course, is very technology-centered, but ultimately it's about the human-to-human connection. And I find it very relevant to the global pandemic we're all living through right now.
Yeah, I get it. I know a number of times I always wanted to have a little sensor in my computer that when I'm frustrated at my computer, I hit it and it can say, ouch. Just so, please don't do that again. I mean, that's kind of not a positive thing, or I can pet it and say, nice job.
Right.
But that desire to have your world around you actually be emotionally connected
Mm-hmm.
or be able to be simpatico and reflect your emotions back at you uh, is huge. Um, so you dive in into your doctorate, and then you go to MIT Media Lab, which is the sort of the birthplace of a multitude of amazing companies. And how long were you at the Media Lab, and what was the moment where Affectiva came into existence? And take a moment and describe what Affectiva does as sort of an AI as a service company.
Yeah. Yeah. So my career plan was to become faculty at a top university like MIT. So I got to MIT as a postdoc. We were very focused on the application of the technology for autism. And twice a year, we would invite all these Fortune 500 companies to explore, the lab. It was called Sponsor Week or Demo or Die, which you will appreciate. So we had to show demos of our technology. And for a number of years, like I joined 2006, and between 2006 and 2009, all of these companies like Pepsi wanted to test their products using our technology. Bank of America wanted to understand customer experience. Fox wanted to test the fall lineup of their shows and their content. So I just kept a log of all of the different use cases. And when we got to about 20 of these, Ross Picard, an MIT professor and my co-founder, we went to the Media Lab director at the time and we said, we need to hire 10 more research students because we're ignoring all these companies. And he kind of thought about it and he said, this is not research anymore. There's a commercialization opportunity here. And, for me, the tipping point was just getting excited about bringing a technology that I feel so passionate about and bringing it to the whole world and deploying it at scale and really transforming how people do their business. So that was 10 years ago. It's been an emotional roller coaster of a ride. Our first product that we've brought to market, it's now deployed in 90 countries around the world. The technology is being used by a third of the Fortune Global 500 companies. And they essentially use our technology to understand the emotional connection their brand has with their consumers. So for example, if you are, Kellogg's and you want to test if people like your video content, you send out a survey and with people's consent, we turn the cameras on. You would watch the video. We would collect moment by moment in the cloud your facial responses, and we would aggregate that. And then we have kind of a moment by moment trace of how positive or negative your response was. Did you laugh during the joke? Were you skeptical, when a claim was made? And so advertisers and marketers use this to optimize their media spend and their content.
Thank you. That's perfect. And it's a very simple but very powerful concept, right? And just for everybody, we've talked about this in the past, that at the end of the day, we're all going to eventually have an AI software shell, sort of some version of Jarvis, that's able to know our emotions better than we know our emotions. So it knows during the course of the day when you were frustrated, when you were happy, when you were sad. It knows what songs you liked, what TV shows you liked, and you could eventually, perhaps with Affectiva software embedded in a future version of Alexa, you can say, your version of Alexa can say, Rana, you look, I get that you're not happy, you're bummed right now. So I'm going to play a series of music or a few TV segments that I've seen perceived for you making you happy before. So all of a sudden your environment can start to become responsive to you. And so, right?
100%. That's the big vision, right? Like imagine if Alexa or your Siri, they know your baseline. And so when you start deviating from it, they can flag that. I love the idea of Alexa kind of recommending music, or maybe even saying, "Ooh, Peter, you don't look too well today. I'm going to order like chicken soup for you," or like whatever.
Or like right now is focused on visualization only, or do you do audio as well?
Our kind of core technology is vision-based, but we've also added a team that does vocal intonations. So not natural language processing, but like how fast are you speaking or how much energy is in your voice.
Right. And so I want folks watching this to think about where this would be useful in your businesses. And I just want to take a second to sort of piece it out, and just say again that that your product is sort of an AI as a service that you as a entrepreneur, as a CEO, can utilize a little bit or a lot, and it's a go as you or buy it as you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so one of the things is, again, a lot of entrepreneurs in your sales and marketing content, you're generating videos, you're generating YouTube commercials, you're generating even just still images with taglines on there. So let's talk about how companies are using this in their sales and marketing segment.
100%. Yeah. And it doesn't have to just be an online video ad. I mean, we test movie trailers, we test TV shows. It could be educational segments, right? Like, I mean, videos used everywhere now. And a lot of the companies we work with use it as they do A/B tests, right? So they have different versions or slightly different edits of the same video, and they want to know which one is going to garner the highest emotional engagement. We also have companies that are trying to say, take, I don't know, a 2-minute video segment and cut it down to a 15-second video segment, right? TikTok style, whatever. So it's all of these like media optimization that.
And which part of my 3-minute video is the most emotionally engaging?
Exactly.
Right? And
exactly.
or which is the most confusing?
Exactly.
And if I only have 15 seconds to grab you, I can know that now.
Exactly.
And so I can create a commercial or an ad or whatever the case might be, send it out to my user list and say, would you please watch this and allow us to record your emotional experience while you're watching this? And then I think you'd anonymize the data.
Yes, we anonymize the data. We don't really care who you are. We are more interested in your responses. We do usually pair it with a survey just to get a sense of location, gender, ethnicity. Are you a product buyer or not? Just to be able to break the results. So we can map out, like, here are the female responses and here are the male responses. And sometimes the data is really fascinating.
Yeah, I can imagine that it would be. And so that's one element. Another element, we're all living our lives on Zoom right now. And I have my daily stand up with my team for an hour on Zoom. And I'm trying to always understand, how is the team's emotional health?
Yeah.
Could your product give me sort of a report on that?
Yeah. So our technology does multi-face tracking. So imagine if you're in the Brady Bunch view, the gallery view, and we're able to track each of these faces again in real time. And imagine if it aggregates it again anonymously. It doesn't need to say, Rana's not focused, but anonymously you see an aggregate curve of engagement and how positive or negative the reactions are. And like you, I've been really struggling. I mean, we have our hands-on meeting. Our team is about just under 100 people dispersed around the world. And it's so hard to keep track of the level of engagement. And I wish I could see, are people resonating with the message? Do they find it confusing? Are they believing in the message? Is it building trust? Is it building loyalty? Is it motivating people and getting them rah? And it's so hard to tell that over something like, a video conference. And then of course, like I've had to do a lot of virtual book talks because my book has pivoted to a virtual book tour.
Book launch. Yes.
Yeah. And so I do a lot of these, like, keynotes over Zoom, and it's brutal because if you were on a real stage, you would riff off of the energy in the audience, and you would personalize it, and you say something funny and people laugh. Virtually you have no clue, and I just find that so painful, right?
That space, right? It's incredible. Another area that I find this extraordinarily useful in is the education world, right? So if I'm delivering a course to somebody, to my Abundance Digital members, or a Khan Academy course is being delivered to, I have 2 9-year-old boys, What's interesting is if that's being delivered off of your laptop or your iPhone or your tablet, there is a camera focused on you. And so I would be able to know, I'm assuming, have I lost the student? Are they confused or are they bored? Should I go faster or slower? Yes?
Yes, absolutely. So a few years ago, my daughter's now almost 17, but when she was like your son's age, um, she was doing a lot of Khan Academy, and she's not really into math, so it wasn't her favorite subject. But one time I asked for her permission to record the sessions, and they're really fascinating, actually. And you could see her like kind of thinking through the problems. If she gets it right, she perks up. When she has a streak, if the streak breaks, she's like, "Ugh." All of these cues, if it were a real educator, a real teacher, they would take that into consideration and personalize it, right? Like cheer her on, take a break, make it easier, make it harder. Khan Academy and most online learning environments are oblivious to all of these really critical engagement cues. So I think there's a huge opportunity in online learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, everybody watching, as you're thinking as an entrepreneur, how would I use this to make, because really the only the only feedback we have on content we put out is, sort of a
Review.
5-star YouTube view, or did people abandon it at a certain point, or did people ever come back and watch it again? And that's such a low bandwidth feedback compared to what is possible minute, second by second in your content. That is extraordinary. Let's talk about another application that you're using this for in the automotive space, which has a very powerful implication. Would you describe that?
Yeah. So the application there is, again, a lot of AI or technology in a vehicle is focused on what's happening outside the vehicle. And it's almost like the inside of the vehicle is a black box. So we are focused on in-cabin sensing, primarily or initially to understand the driver's state. Is the driver falling asleep? Are they distracted? Are they texting on their phone? Are they angry? Are they frustrated? All of these things that affect the level of attention of a driver. So that's use case number one. But as we think about the future of mobility and autonomous vehicles and robo taxis and even ride sharing, it's important to really know how many occupants are in the vehicle, what's their general mood and state. And you can reimagine the transportation experience. You can personalize the lighting, the music, the content, right? You can, once again, play with the content. So we're exploring all of that. We're partnering with car companies to make that real.
And so I can also imagine that entrepreneurs who are there are a multitude, whether it's in a coffee shop, whether it's people come up to try your product out at the sort of point of purchase, and they try it, and if it's frustrating, or if a lot of times I'll get a product and I will have to get the instructions on how to utilize it, and the instructions will be so bad that it's just like absolutely frustrating as hell, right? Wouldn't it be nice if instead of that happening, that frustration would be detected, and then an online user support would jump in and say, "Hey, I see you're frustrated. Let me help you with that."
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is an entrepreneurial, growth land. I mean, there's so many opportunities to use this capability inside your product. So the first product, the media analytics product, right? That is an AI as a service.
Yeah.
Just give us a quick overview on how it works. What do I do? Do I buy and download software? How does it work? What's the onboarding process?
It's all cloud-based. So basically, we would set you up with an account where you would upload your video content. So say, you have 5 videos that you want to test. We would then either set you up with, a panel, basically, a remote panel, or if you have access to your viewers, you set that up. And the viewers get a survey. very simple survey where it has an embedded video, and we always ask for people's permission to turn the video on. That's kind of part of our core value around data privacy. But that's really about it. And then
so it's like a digital focus group.
Yeah.
With
Totally.
without having to worry about, are they lying to me? Are they, it's like minute to minute feedback in a digital focus group.
Exactly. And it's very scalable because all you need is a device with a camera, and of course and it works on a phone or a laptop. As I said, we're in 90 countries around the world. So, we've tried it in remote parts of China and Cairo, where I'm originally from, to we do a lot of work in the US, of course.
Amazing.
As well.
So I think of emotional AI as being an important stepping stone towards what would be called general AI. Can you speak to your vision of what we're going to see over the next decade?
Yeah, and I want to go back to something that you said around innovation and entrepreneurship in these times. I am a true believer. Obviously, these are challenging times for everybody, so I don't want to kind of diminish that. But I really believe that there's a real opportunity that's going to emerge out of this because we're spending so much time connecting virtually, whether you're organizing your team or presenting to a live audience virtually, or you're learning online, or you're dating online, right? Like the full spectrum. There's going to be a whole slew, right? There's going to be a whole slew.
Emotional feedback on dating online. Oh my God. It's like, no, she hates me.
So I think we're just going to see a lot of emergence of like this additional layer of insights that sits on these virtual connections that will allow us to, optimize these interactions in ways that are more effective. So I'm excited. I feel like we've been catapulted into this world so fast, unexpectedly, but a lot is going to come out of it that's positive.
Yeah. I think so. I think we're accelerating the world. We're accelerating 2 to 3 years forward over these last 2 or 3 months. And one of the things that I'm focused on for my abundance community, singularity community, and the community that is receiving our AI as a service and software as a service guidebook is, when post COVID-19, people are looking to try and bring their companies back to some level of normalcy. It's important to do that agilely, and it's important to do that efficiently. And it's important to say, I'm not going to go back to where I was. What is possible of where I want to go? And so I think the product that you created, really is an AI as a service product that can allow a company to be far more efficient with fewer employees and less money spent, to understand what people truly think, or how do you serve your customer. Right? This is really about serving the customer more efficiently, more effectively, because you had to take guesses before, versus now you can actually know what your customer is loving, feeling, being frustrated by.
Yeah, exactly. And that customer, if you are in the business of creating content, or right, which in any form it takes, which a lot of us are,
every
right?
company in some way, shape, or form is creating content.
Right. Yeah. You want to measure the functional aspects of the product or service is important, but the emotional connection you have with your consumers is just equally important.
I would say it's more important. I mean, we make so many of our most important decisions based upon an emotional reaction. Our emotions can override our logical mind and cognitive mind. It's like, why did you buy it? Because it's beautiful, or because it looked cool, versus I need it now. So, if you're in the design world, it might be, how does a person react to this design of a product versus that design of a product? That small change could make all the difference. And it used to be, and I talk about this a lot, it used to be that you would hire an expert, and the expert was the person telling you. But we now have the crowd, and we now have AI that can give you not an opinion, but quantitative truth.
Data, exactly. Data, exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that something as kind of personal as your emotions, we can now quantify that and take a very data. I mean, we have collected over almost 10 million facial responses, which is about 5 billion facial frames of people responding to content from all over the world. And it's just been, like, with my scientist hat on, it's just been fascinating to see this data and mine it for, for insights.
Yeah, hopefully to those watching, hopefully you're getting excited about and thinking about how would I use it? Where could I put? I know I am in my companies, right? All of my companies. One of my companies in the healthcare space is delivering results of tests to a patient, from a concierge physician to a patient. Having this on would allow me to know during a Zoom or a Google Meetup, whatever the platform you're using, would allow the physician to know, when is this patient scared, happy, confused, and then stressed. You
Right.
look confused, you look stressed. Can I review that with you one more time? Because many of us don't actually stop to say, hold it, please. I don't understand what that meant. We're too embarrassed to give that admission that we didn't understand it. And so people move on. And that's the worst thing you can do to your customer. And so,
I mean, telehealth is another area that I think is just so exciting. And this technology has so much applicability. As it turns out, if you're an empathetic doctor, if your patient perceives you as being empathetic, you are less likely to get sued.
I've seen those stats.
Right? Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. People don't sue doctors for a wrong move. They sue doctors because they felt they don't feel emotionally connected to them at all.
Right. So wouldn't it be amazing to know if you are emotionally connecting with your patient and get some feedback, like, Peter, you didn't make any face contact with your patient today, or you always had this like stern look, or right, you didn't you didn't stop to ask a question, or right, like all of this coaching could be really interesting.
So again, all our entrepreneurs out there, think about this. There's 1,000 business ideas that you could build on top of what Affectiva does, and supplies you sort of that engine. But how do you create new businesses? How do you make your business more effective, more efficient, give you more data that you can utilize? So do you sort of agree that we're going to see almost all of our devices and interactions this decade gain an emotional perspective? I think so. Yes.
I think so. I think that's the big vision here. And I think we are well on our path to do that. I mean, our devices are already conversational. We're starting to see a lot more perception, and eventually it'll have emotional intelligence and empathy.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the dark side of this, which is, what are the ethical issues that are possible if this sort of thing is misused?
Yeah. And I'm a huge kind of vocal advocate of both the potential positive applications of this, but also how it can be abused. One area you can imagine where this technology could be abused is, if it's used without people's consent, in surveillance and security applications, or maybe lie detection, deception detection, where people wouldn't know that they're being recorded. And then there's potential for profiling. And so that's one area that worries me a lot. We have completely steered away from these use cases at Affectiva. And I actually advocate for thoughtful regulation to make sure that, to think through what are the unintended consequences of these technologies.
Yeah. I'll tell you, one of the things I think about a lot is we're going to be heading in the next 2 to 5 years. And I talk about this in my book, The Future's Faster Than You Think. We're going to be heading to a point where we're going to all have AR glasses of some type, right? We're all going to have augmented reality that is able to view a person's face and give us a lot more data than we know. Pupillary dilation, coloration changes, small movements in your facial muscles. You talk about actually something called action units as a unit that your AI is picking up. How many different action units have you recorded?
There's about 45 in total. Our technology can do 20 plus.
Right. So it's your rouse fur, your smiling, a smirk, other action units like that.
Exactly.
So there's going to be a sense where will the technology be strong enough eventually where you have a pretty good guess that a person's lying to you in a conversation?
Yeah, so the idea is that we can codify all of these. Like an action unit is basically a muscle movement. So if this is the zygomatics muscle, so if I pull my corners up and outwards, that's action unit 12. This is action unit 4, action unit 4, 2, right?
Yeah.
And using computer vision and deep learning, we can decodify all of that down to, milliseconds, right? So so we can definitely capture these micro expressions. Lie detection is more complex, so you need to know a little bit more context. And again, we come from the approach that we want to build trust between people and bridge a communication gap. So we've steered away from lie detection.
Got it.
Yeah.
Have entrepreneurs built businesses on the Affectiva platform?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have
So
a few examples you can share with us of how folks are using it?
yeah, in a lot of ways. So, for example, with the media analytics use case, we're partnered with market research companies like WPP, Kantar, Nielsen, and they use our technology to, they then wrap a service around it, right? We have a company called Brain Power. They use Google Glass and combine it with our technology to help individuals on the autism spectrum.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, because autistic children have a hard time picking up an emotion of the person they're speaking with, and it makes it seem inappropriate it makes them look inappropriate in a conversation.
Exactly. And so this gives them real-time feedback on how to interpret these nonverbal skills. So we selectively make our core technology. There are some cases where companies have used our technology to build kind of a customer experience, video verbatim, right? If you're collecting video verbatim, say I check into a Marriott, and instead of filing a survey, I just do a 1-minute video recording of, oh yeah, it was awesome, or it really sucked, like these people have no clue. And then we can analyze that content for the emotional tone of the video. So that's another area where it's being used. So yeah,
That's great. There are other companies who when we're on phone calls at a time with a customer service entity, you'll hear your phone call is being recorded for training purposes, essentially. And I know that companies like Beyond Verbal and others are basically giving the the online help representative sort of minute-to-minute feedback, like your client is angry or is confused or is excited, to help sort of guide that person, or in retrospect being able to give not the CEO but the head of sales an understanding of which of their sales agent are strong or weak in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's another really interesting application. Again, as we see more and more of these sales activities happening virtually, wouldn't it be awesome as a salesperson to know if people were truly engaged? Were they persuaded by the pitch, or were they sitting there rolling their eyes? Like, these are all very important signals, and good salespeople are really good at capturing those when they're in a face-to-face kind of pitching event. But it's harder to do that virtually.
Yeah, and I love the idea as well in sort of the Zoom Brady Bunch mode, where you're not able to always focus on everybody. How do you see being able to get a retroactive, on this conversation, 30% of your team was angry or excited or confused.
Right.
Yeah, that's super powerful. Girl Decoded just came out recently. I had a chance to help support your launch a little bit, which
Thank you.
I see this next decade and more as a time when women are stepping into their leadership roles beyond what was happening in the past, and well deserved. Talk about what Girl Decoded is about.
Yeah, and first of all, thank you for supporting the book. You've learned the book, and I really appreciate, and you have a ton of expertise being a multiple time author. This is my first book, so I'm learning a lot. Girl Decoded is my memoir. It is basically a juxtaposition of my personal journey growing up in the Middle East as a computer scientist and making my way first to the UK and eventually to MIT in the United States. But it also takes the reader behind the scenes and just simplifies, how do you build emotion AI, and what is emotion AI? Why do we need it? What are the applications and the ethical considerations? So it's designed for a broad audience, anybody who's interested in the future of technology and the ethics of it, but also just, you know, a real kind of authentic story of somebody who struggled to reconcile my, you know, societal and cultural upbringings with being kind of a woman tech CEO leader in a very male dominated society and having to find my own voice and forge my own path.
Yeah, and it really has, I mean, it's been a challenge, but for a number of women. And I think the societal norm is finally shifted to being much more expecting of and empowering of and desirous of women leaders within organizations, which is awesome. So looking forward to continue to support the work that you've done. I just think the whole realm of emotional AI is so underappreciated, right? Tony Robbins is a dear friend. We do a lot of work together, and it's, you know, all of his work it comes from the notion that our emotions power us.
Right.
Right. So when I'm helping our Abundance Digital and Singularity community coming up with their massively transformative purpose, I'm like, for you to make a big impact on the planet, for you to really fulfill your dream, is to be able to do something that's extraordinary. It needs to be powered by emotion. It can't be just a logical, like, that's interesting, there's a need for that. I need to know that it's coming from a place of absolute awe, inspiration, excitement, or a negative energy can be equally powerful. Like, I refuse to let that exist on the planet anymore. And so how we communicate those emotions, and so much of our brain is designed to read emotions. People don't realize that. And so when we say, hey, you know, it doesn't feel the same on video, it doesn't feel the same, you know, remotely, you're getting very few of those cues. And so it's just super powerful tech that's coming our way.
Yeah, when we first started to do this work, I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years now, but when we started pitching the company, when we first spun out of MIT, Roz, my co-founder, and I did a whole kind of Sandhill roadshow. And of course, we were pitching to, you know, a predominantly male investor community. And here we were, two women scientists. I used to wear the hijab at the time, so I was very clearly Muslim. And we were pitching an emotion company. So we avoided using the E word, right? Like, we called it the E word, and we never brought it. Like, if you look at our original pitch decks, the word emotion was not there at all. We try to always kind of talk about it indirectly. And so the name Affectiva comes from the word affect, which is a synonym for emotion. We talk about sentiment or valence, which is how positive or negative you're feeling. But we would avoid the word emotion. I think the world has changed. I think there's a lot more recognition that, to your point, emotions influence every aspect of our lives, from big decisions to small decisions, to our memory, to our health, to how we connect. And so I feel like there is a new wave of appreciation for why emotions matter.
Yeah, and I think it's a unfair advantage to entrepreneurs to be able to bring in that emotional data set into their business decisions, right? It really is an unfair advantage. It's like a company that is using that capability versus a company that is not, has got a lot more insight. And ultimately, you want to create an emotional connection with your customers, whether it's you as the face and brand, or it's the sexy car or whatever, or it's just the company's brand. You know, do I feel warm and fuzzy about it? Do I feel safe? Do I feel empowered? But those
Do
are
I
all.
trust it, right?
What's that?
Do I trust the brand, right?
In fact, one of the things that's coming out of COVID-19 is people are more desirous now for trust and safety than ever before.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so brands that have a high trust factor and a high safety factor are going to be much more connection oriented. So if I wanted to use this, how fast can I become a user and how fast can I get up and running experiments? Okay. Does it take weeks, days, hours? How long?
It is pretty straightforward to get set up. You would go on our website and kind of get in touch with us. We would set you up with an account. It helps a lot because we're a small company, so it helps a lot if you have larger volumes of videos that you want to test. But yeah, we're definitely open to hearing from everybody.
All right, that's amazing. Can you show us how your tech actually works if I'm a new user to it?
Yeah, let me show you an example. So this is an ad that we tested for Coca-Cola, and we have permission to share this data. We had about 58 participants view this ad. And what you are seeing here in this green curve is a moment-by-moment response of their, what we call the valence metric, which is how positive or negative they responded. And so I'm going to play it. I'll let it play for a few seconds, and I'll explain what's going on here. So again, what happened is we had 58 participants from wherever they are in the world, just using their devices, watch the ad, and we were able to, the algorithm was able to detect their facial responses, like their level of smiles or smirking or disgust or surprise, and we're able to quantify that.
Okay, let's play.
All right, let's play.
Come prima, più di prima, t'amerò. Per la vita, la mia vita ti darò. Sembra un sogno rivederti, accarezzarti. Le tue mani fra le mani stringere ancora. Il mio mondo, tutto il mondo, sei per me. A nessuno voglio bene come a te. Ogni giorno, ogni istante, dolcemente ti dirò come prima, più di prima, t'amerò.
So this ad performed in the top kind of 90th percentile of about 50,000 ads we've tested. And you can see, exactly where people smiled. You can fast forward to different parts. What is really interesting is this emotional journey, which culminates in a positive response that coincides with the brand reveal. And we know that this highly correlates with things like purchase behavior, but also virality. You can break it down by gender, for example. So we can see this is the females' responses versus the males in blue.
Wow.
You can look at different age brands. You can break it down in many different ways, right?
Massively unfair advantage. That's great. And it was interesting to watch myself thinking about myself smiling and my smiling at the same time and smiling. Amazing.
Yeah. We should have captured your responses and graphed it
too. On our next session together, where we teach everybody how to use this, we will do that. And I assume that this is affordable for small companies and entrepreneurs on a per byte basis.
It is affordable. As I said, we try to, if you're a bigger company, you're going to do lots and lots of volume, we would route you to a market research partner of ours, because they can then provide supporting services. We are in the technology business. So if you're kind of sufficient and you can deal with this portal and you can navigate this data, we'll of course kind of give you an orientation, but then you're kind of on your own to interpret the data.
Great. So we'll do as a next step a how-to part of our webinar. So again, my job here for everyone watching is to help you see where you should be experimenting. What should you be playing with? What should you be doing to give you the ability to operate as an exponential organization? Remember, an exponential organization is one that has a 10x return on your time and your capital, and people are going, wow, how are they doing so amazingly well? Because you're running experiments and you're looking at the data. And what Rana, your company, has done is allow people to actually get the data and look at the data. So super excited about our next conversations, and congratulations on Girl Decoded. Everybody, Dr. Rana el Kaliouby, I'll pronounce that properly one of these times. But I'm again a huge fan of your work, and we're going to see emotional AI embedded in our works across the board. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
A real pleasure.